The clang of steel echoed across the Mississippi floodplain at midnight, carrying a promise of blood. No one expected a knight in full plate to emerge from the trees on the riverbank, least of all the fur trapper Jeremiah Cole, crouched in his skiff. In the year 1317, in what is now central Louisiana, the land lay densely forested, rivers swelling with spring rains. European explorers had not yet arrived here in force, but rumors traveled from the Gulf Coast. Strange warriors in shining armor had been seen threatening coastal settlements. Some said they were exiles from distant kingdoms. Others whispered they were fallen knights cursed to wander the New World.
Before anyone could move, Jeremiah leapt from behind a stump and shouted, raising his musket, a prototype early firearm, risky but loaded. The knight whirled, metal rang as he raised his shield. The captive guard hesitated in confusion. Shouts rose from torches. Jeremiah fired. The ball knocked the knight's helm sideways, scratching it. Chaos exploded. In that moment, the captives broke knee ties and stampeded. Some slashed captors with improvised blades, others hurled torches. The knight yanked off his helmet, a pale, gaunt man with sunken eyes, and lunged toward Jeremiah. They collided, steel rang, boots splashed in mud. Men screamed. Jeremiah drew a hunting knife, slashed at the knight's gauntleted wrist. The weapon clattered to the ground. With a roar, one captive seized the fallen sword and plunged it into the knight's side. The torchlight flickered. The knight staggered and fell. Silence swallowed the clearing. By dawn, Jeremiah and the freed men dragged the body into the swamp, sank it beneath cypress roots, and fled. They carried off the armor as trophies, and the captives scattered to distant camps. No further trace was ever found of the, quote, knight, but the legends grew. A phantom feudal lord, wandering the American wilds, enforcing chivalric laws in a land not meant for them. Over the decades, traders and settlers would whisper the story in frontier taverns. Some claimed to see his spectral helmet glowing in misty forests. Others dismissed it as campfire lore. Yet along the fringes where old world met new, that midnight clash remained an echo of a medieval dream violently dropped into an untamed land.
Jeremiah Cole, a French-Norman trapper and woodsman of mixed background, paddled a small skiff up a tributary of the great Mississippi. He carried pelts, trade goods, and rumors. On this particular night, a full moon glinted off rippling water, and he felt a cold thrill of dread. Ahead on his left bank lay the flicker of torchlight, deep in a thicket. He grounded the skiff silently and crept ashore. Through tangled oaks, he saw the torches encircle a clearing. In the center stood a crude wooden dais where a figure in full plate stood, helmet closed, shield bearing a fleur-de-lis crossed over a stylized alligator. Around him knelt a dozen ragged men, bound at wrists, their faces streaked with mud and fear. The armored knight raised his sword to the sky and spoke in broken French, accented with a strange lilt. "By the honor of the Grail, I reclaim my oath. Rise, sons of the new land, the old oaths bind still." His voice carried over the night. The captives flinched. Torches danced in the breeze. Jeremiah, hidden in shadow, gasped. The knight then turned to a subservient guard, ordering, "Bring me the captive with the slave mark on the neck." One of the kneeling men was shuffled forward. A faded brand in the shape of a cross lay along his nape. Jeremiah realized with horror this man was once claimed by a coastal port slave dealer, now dragged inland under pretense of some feudal claim.
He froze. His throat went dry. "Who goes there?" he rasped. No answer, only the hiss of water dripping from metal plates. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the rider turned and vanished into the trees. No splash, no sound of retreating hooves. The night swallowed it whole. The legend grows. Weeks later, a band of Choctaw traders arrived, whispering about a metal ghost that rode along the river at dusk. It carried no torch, but gleamed like moonlight, and left behind hoofprints that burned black into the mud. Hunters claimed their dogs refused to follow those tracks. Jeremiah listened silently, his face pale beneath his beard. "You look like you've seen it," one trader said, studying him. Jeremiah's eyes flicked toward the door. "Maybe I have," he murmured. "Maybe it's looking for something." That night, unable to rest, he opened the trunk beneath his cot and pulled out the knight's gauntlet, the one he had taken as proof of that night's battle. It was cold, even after months, and heavier than he remembered. Etched along the inner wrist was a name, Sir. For months after that night, Jeremiah Cole could not sleep without hearing the metallic groan of the fallen knight's armor sinking beneath the cypress roots. He had survived raids, storms, and the brutal law of the frontier, but nothing haunted him like that ghost in steel. The swamp had swallowed the man's body, yet the tale refused to die. By midsummer, the freedmen had scattered, some to the French Gulf settlements, others deeper inland. Jeremiah returned to his rough-hewn cabin near the Red River, where the forest hummed with cicadas and the air smelled of pine resin and decay. He told himself he had done right. He had freed captives, ended tyranny, but the land itself seemed to remember. At night, when moonlight silvered the river, he often saw ripples gliding upstream against the current. Sometimes faint metallic knocks echoed through the trees, as though something hollow were walking beneath the water. One evening, as he repaired a musket by firelight, he heard hoofbeats, slow, deliberate, heavy. He stepped outside, hand to knife. There, at the edge of his clearing, stood a rider. The horse was dark and wet with swamp water. The figure on its back wore no flesh, only armor, rusted but unbroken, helm tilted.